There's a distinct difference between textbook survival and actually living a life in a new language. We often obsess over the big presentations or the academic essays, but I've found that the real test of fluency happens in the kitchen aisle of a department store.
That is such a specific example, but I know exactly where you are going with this. It's the difference between asking, "Do you have a pan?" and asking, "Do you have a 32-centimeter non-stick pan that works on an induction stove?"
Exactly. That's the level of detail where real life happens. Today, we are going to deconstruct these everyday interactions, from the mundane task of buying cookware to the high-stakes stress of a hospital visit. We're looking at how language shapes our reality in these moments.
It's fascinating because when you look at a simple transaction like buying that frying pan you mentioned, it's not just about the object, it's about the specifications. You have to articulate needs, durability, heat distribution, cleaning ease. If you can't explain that you hate scrubbing pans, you end up with the wrong tool.
And that spirals, doesn't it? Because then you're at the counter, and suddenly there's a deal. Buy 2 items, get 10% off. Now you're not just a shopper, you're a negotiator. You're making split-second decisions about whether you actually need a French oak cutting board just to save a few euros.
Which, let's be honest, you always buy.
Guilty. But that French oak board implies a certain lifestyle, doesn't it? It bridges us into the cultural aspect of these transactions. Even something as globalized as fast food carries these little cultural markers.
Right, you walk into a McDonald's thinking it's a universal safe haven. You order your cheeseburger combo, maybe upsize the fries, but then you start noticing the cracks in the uniformity.
The Croque McDo in France.
Precisely. Or realizing that chips, depending on where you are, actually taste different in the UK versus the US. It's a sensory experience that defies the standardization. It forces you to engage with the locale, even in a franchise.
I love the idea of traveling just to test those differences. It reminds me of that debate between choosing Italy or Japan for a vacation. It's never just about going somewhere. It's about the specific fantasy you're chasing.
It is the narrative we build. If you choose Italy, you aren't just booking a flight to Rome. You are booking the taste of authentic carbonara, the vision of the Colosseum, the romance of a gondola ride in Venice. You are buying into a feeling.
Versus Japan, which offers a completely different sensory palette. Sushi, temples, cherry blossoms. It's interesting how our vocabulary shifts when we describe these dreams. For Italy, words like romantic and history dominate. For Japan, it's often culture, seasonality, and atmosphere.
And speaking of atmosphere and culture, have you ever encountered those traditional Dutch wooden shoes?
The clogs, yes.
That is another perfect example of an object carrying history. You look at them, and they seem like stiff, uncomfortable souvenirs. But then you learn they are made of Dutch oak, hand-carved by artisans, and actually worn by farmers for protection. Suddenly, the language of souvenir shifts to heritage.
But they are impossible to walk in at first.
Oh, absolutely. It takes time to get used to the stiffness. But isn't that a metaphor for learning a language? It feels stiff and unnatural at first, like wearing wood on your feet. But eventually, you find your stride.
That is a beautiful metaphor. However, not all language learning is as pleasant as buying shoes or planning vacations. Sometimes, life throws you into the deep end without a life jacket. I'm talking about the medical emergencies.
This is where the tone of the conversation changes completely. It's one thing to order a McChicken. It's another thing entirely to explain to a triage nurse that your friend slipped while chopping onions and sliced their ring finger.
The stakes are incredibly high. You need precise vocabulary, stitches, bleeding, numbness. Or imagine the scenario of a car accident. You hear about a friend who shattered his legs and has a brain injury. The vocabulary of trauma is something we rarely practice, but when you need it immediately.
And the emotional weight of those conversations is heavy. It's not just reporting facts, it's managing empathy. How is his wife handling it? Is she okay? You have to switch from clinical reporter to supportive friend instantly.
Even minor injuries, like a kid breaking an arm at soccer practice. The physical pain is one thing, but the emotional pain of missing the championship game? Explaining that disappointment requires a level of nuance that goes beyond basic grammar.
It's the why that matters. He's not crying because of the bone. He's crying because he's the goalkeeper and he feels he let the team down. If you can't express that distinction, you can't comfort him effectively.
Comfort is a huge part of communication. Think about long-distance relationships. When you can't touch someone, words are the only bridge you have.
That is the ultimate test of verbal intimacy. You have to convey "I miss you" in a way that doesn't sound repetitive, even though you say it every day. You have to rely on shared memories. Remember that time you spilled coffee on your shirt? To create a sense of presence.
It's about keeping the connection alive through narrative, just like reading a book together,
Oh, I love that. The mystery novel scenario.
right? Waiting an extra hour for a train just to finish a chapter. But sharing that plot with someone, I'm about to find the killer, no spoilers, that is a form of bonding. It's intellectual intimacy.
And it distracts from the chaos of the daily grind. Because let's face it, the daily grind can be brutal. We saw that with the work stress conversation, deadlines, data analysis, skipping lunch.
The universal language of "I need caffeine to survive."
It is universal. But notice how the solution is always social? Let's meet at Starbucks at 4. We use these rituals to break the tension. It's the same with domestic tension.
You mean the babysitting negotiations?
That and the family conflicts. The babysitting market is surprisingly complex. You have parents desperate for a night out, vetting a 20-year-old pre-med student. It's an interview process. Can you cook? Do you like kids? Are you free Friday?
And the flip side, the teenager who just wants to make money but actually hates kids and prefers dogs.
That was a hilarious contrast, but it highlights the importance of honesty in these transactions. If you hate kids, do not take the job. But then you have the deeper family conflicts, the student fighting with conservative parents about clothing and curfews.
That hit hard. The feeling of "I don't want to go home because we just argue." That is a very complex emotional state to articulate. It's not just anger, it's a generation gap. It's a clash of values.
And the advice given in that scenario was quite profound. Family is the safest place. Maybe they just don't understand yet. Navigating that requires patience and a very gentle use of language. You can't just shout. You have to explain your identity.
Which brings us back to education. Whether it's learning to explain your identity to your parents, or simply learning why we say the sun, but a cat.
Ah, the grammar struggle. The eternal battle of the articles.
It drives learners crazy. Why is it the Eiffel Tower? Because there is only one. But when you are in the thick of it, it feels arbitrary.
It does, but like the yoga class mentioned earlier, it's about progress, not perfection. You might not be flexible enough to get the grammar perfect today, just like you can't touch your toes in the first class. But you show up.
And you find mentors, like the piano teacher scenario, finding someone who is not just a teacher but a friend, someone you want to succeed for. That emotional connection accelerates learning more than any textbook.
Absolutely. Whether it is a piano teacher, a supportive friend at the hospital, or a partner on the other side of the world, human connection is the engine of language.
So, looking at all these slices of life, from the frying pan to the hospital bed, what is the takeaway here?
I think the takeaway is that fluency isn't about memorizing a dictionary. It's about adaptability. It's about having the tools to handle a 10% discount, a broken bone, a broken heart, or a moment of joy at a zoo looking at a hippo.
A hippo shaking its body.
Exactly. It's about being present in those moments and having the words to share them.
Well said. So, to our listeners, next time you are out buying a cutting board or ordering a burger, don't just go through the motions. Unexpected. Engage with the details. That is where the life is.
And maybe buy the wooden shoes. They might be stiff, but they last forever.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep talking.
Goodbye.